Hello traders, Cousin Vinny coming to you from theclosingprint.com on March the 17th, 2019. In this edition of your weekend video newsletter, we'll discuss the indices, all of which moved higher last week, led by the NASDAQ Composite, beating the other majors by 2%, gaining a full 4.15% for the week. In addition, the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ are both above their 200-day and November pivot highs, which leads little left between here and the all-time highs we saw back in September 2018. The industrials and the small caps IWM are lagging, with only the small caps below both the 200-day and the November pivot highs. With this in mind, we'll keep focusing on the NASDAQ and FANG stocks in particular, and we'll monitor IWM for risk on or risk off signals this week. Most everything we follow is bullish for equities, including bonds, currencies, sentiment, and breadth, all of which are supportive, in addition to the likely FOMO tailwind if the bulls persist this week. The S&P 500 daily, by comparison, is above all of these pivots. Looking for follow-through. The spiders is right in that area at the moment. We need to see a follow-through this week as well on the S&P. And tick cumulative on the daily continues to rise. Utilizing Renko charts, we eliminate the noise as well. We can see clearly that white bricks persist, telling us to be more focused in a bullish direction or bias, and watch price action for confirmation along with breadth, volume, and sentiment. Comparing the NASDAQ 100 stocks and the NASDAQ Composite over 3,000 stocks to the S&P 500, we can clearly see price action taking out the previous week's bearish move, moving above this trend line and the November highs. RSI is pushing higher. Volume was above average and beat out the previous week. MACD is above its signal line and rising above zero. In addition, we have a more positive MACD histogram bar than the previous week as well. So all of this points to the reason why we want to focus on NASDAQ stocks and FANG in particular this week. And finally, we have the Wilshire 5000, a broad measure of market participation. I pointed this out over the last few weeks. Strength in this index of 5,000 stocks over the last 13 weeks, culminating in a very bullish candle last week. Volume eclipsing that of the previous 13 weeks. This week here showed capitulation, and since then we've had above average volume. The cycle is up with no hint of a change in direction like we had back in September, October, which led to the peak, as well as what we saw back here in January of 2018. So until we see a peak in this indicator, 5,000 stocks indicating we could see further upside in the short term. Looking at the heat map for a minute, we can see where the areas from week to week, read from left to right. The present week, improvement in these sectors: oil and gas equipment, exploration and production, financials, broker-dealer, high-yield corporate, and so on, into large cap and small cap biotech. Also in real estate, the REITs improving somewhat, utilities, and semiconductors. We can also visualize the capitulation lows that we saw back in December, how we changed markedly into the yellows, lime greens, and greens, and then gradually over the last couple of weeks started to deteriorate, but now we're starting to improve again. So look for that to continue as we see rotation. In addition, we see international markets where we have certain areas of improvement like Argentina, looks like India, and of course China, all improving. Luna Innovations popping up on the blue dot scan, looking like a flat base breakout coming this week. Cheap name, so trade it accordingly and only with money you're willing to risk, if at all. Rubicon, RUBI, another stock that showed up on the relative strength scan, following through, looking pretty strong. Santander, another name that popped up this week that looks really good, provides consumer finance services primarily in the areas of vehicle financing and third-party servicing. This is on the blue dot scan. Looks like it's going to break out. It's just below its pivot breakout zone. Looking for a follow-through. Okay, traders, that's going to do it for me. This is Cousin Vinny coming to you from theclosingprint.com on March the 17th, 2019. I'll send out the watch list later tonight around 11:30 on the East Coast, 8:30 on the West Coast, so look for that in your inbox. Otherwise, have a great weekend, take care, and we'll talk to you soon.